In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a simple frame animation of a bouncing ball in Adobe Photoshop. To start off with, you're going to click on File, New to create a new document. So we're going to click File, New. When it opens up the new document dialog box, you're going to look for the option that says Film and Video. In this instance, we are going to look for the blank document preset that says HDTV 1080p, and I'm going to go ahead and rename the file right away to bouncing ball and then my name, and click create. Your screen should look something like this. You might have a different color background depending on what version of Photoshop you have. But it's the wide angle or widescreen HDTV document size, and you probably will see some of these cyan guides. These lines won't be on your final saved animation. They're just there as guides right now. And you can eventually turn those on and off too. To begin with, if you don't see the timeline option at the bottom of your screen, what you are going to need to do is go Window, scroll down, and check mark Timeline. Now this is going to show you two different options down here. There's Create a Video Timeline that you might see. If you see that, you want to change this to Create Frame Animation, okay? Because we're looking to create a bunch of frames at the bottom of our screen. To make that happen, we need to actually click on this now. It's a new button. So click on Create Frame Animation. And there we have it. We have our first frame that's going to be showing in our animation. We're just going to be doing the most basic thing, and we're just going to create a ball using the Ellipse tool. So you might, at the first time that you use your toolbar, you're going to look for the rectangle tool, and if you click and hold it, it's going to show you other shape options, such as the Ellipse tool. So we're going to choose the Ellipse tool. At the top of your screen, you want to make sure that it says Shape from the pull-down menu there, and then whatever color you want your ball to be, that is where you're going to click in this box here next to the Fill, because that's going to fill the color of the ball. So we're going to do red ball. The stroke is the outline around the ball. We don't want to have any stroke applied, so when you click that option, just make sure that you have that red line going through. And then now we're ready to actually click and drag and make our ball. I want to hold down the Shift key as I click and drag, because that will make my shape a perfect circle. If I don't hold down Shift, it'll show me ovals or ellipses on the screen. But I'm going to hold down Shift, create a small sized ball. There we go. And there you have it. That's the only ball that you need. That's the only shape that you need for your bouncing ball animation. The next tool we're going to go to is the Move tool at the bottom. At the very top of your toolbar. Click on the Move tool, and now it will allow you to click and drag and move your ball around. Up here you have an option that shows transform controls. If you don't see the bounding box around your ball, it's because that is unchecked. You can still move it around, but it's hard to change the size of it. So if you're unhappy with your size, just check mark Show Transform Controls. Hold down Shift and you can click and drag and make it bigger or smaller. Something around this size is fine. Now, anytime you change the size, it's going to ask you, do you want to apply and commit that transformation, or are you unhappy with that? In this instance, I'm happy with it, so I'm going to click the check mark, and now it's going to let me continue to move on. To add more frames down at the bottom, there's going to be a small little icon that looks like a square with a small little corner. When I hover over it, it should say New Document. If you have a newer version of Photoshop, it might be a little plus symbol, but we want to click on that to create the next frame. Now I'm going to go ahead and click and drag and move my ball to the next frame. Create a new frame, move the ball again, create a new frame, so on and so forth. You're probably going to need to do this, maybe about 15 or 20 times. And the larger the movement, the faster your animation is going to move from frame to frame. And obviously, if you just make small little adjustments, you can have a slower animation. And we're not going to deal with any things like squish or squash or anything like that quite yet. We're just doing it really, really simple. So things to think about as you're creating this animation, you know, how high is the ball going to bounce? Is it going to bounce higher after the initial bounce? Or is it going to start, you know, going lower? Is it going to ping pong off all the walls? There's lots of fun things that we can eventually do to modify this. But we just want to make sure we're moving from the top left over to the bottom right. To play my animation, I'm going to click on the play icon arrow down at the bottom, and now it's going to scroll through and go through that. If you don't like seeing your transform controls show in that animation, you can turn those off, and it will just keep continuing like that. All right. Now when you're all finished, you're ready to save it. You're going to go File, Save As. And then this is where we've already named it in the beginning, so that's okay. So we're checking three things. The name of it, where you're placing this in your Creative Cloud folder. So always pay attention to where you're saving it. In this instance, I'm going to put it somewhere else in my Drive folder. And then the format that you want to save this as is going to be Photoshop. So click that Photoshop. So three things when you're saving it. Know the name, know the place, and know the format. You click Save. And that's it.